this? I don't know.
Must have been different.
Hi there. This is us. We are having a little experimentation and a little, how do we say this about that? That's weird, isn't it?
Interesting. It got a little faded when you did that. Huh?
Is it this?
No, I think it's on the camera.
It does seem to be on the camera. Wow, that's impressive, and we don't know why. We don't know why that is. Oh wait, no, it's not on the camera.
Oh,
It is light reflection,
okay.
but that means we also need light.
Light reflection
So-
on the camera.
We love you all. We will be with you momentarily. You have us futzing around for a moment as you gather instead of the toys, or maybe in addition to the toys. Teresa,
Let's get some advice from
start
toys.
the toys.
Doesn't it feel good when you're just about to do something that you know is wrong and you decide to do something else, something that won't hurt you or anybody else? Doesn't that feel great?
Yes.
Fred knows.
All right. So I think then with this, we'll just point it this way, Teresa. We'll point it this way.
All right.
That means your chair has to move that way just a little bit. That's awesome. And we gather together. So
To gather together.
this is that time that we usually play with toys. We usually play with toys. And in
Wanna skip
fact, no, I think that we should, in
Okay.
fact, play with toys just for like another moment or two. Or maybe we just chat inanely
So people can gather
so that people can, in fact, gather.
together.
Yeah. Could we do that?
Australian capitalism, I think. You can make them say that. You can maybe introduce a new sound file in them.
That would be good.
Yeah, I know that. Ah, thank you. Copy. We're getting it together here as the sun pulls out from the shore and our ship is slowly in the west.
Excellent. Okay. So we're getting close to that time.
So try to see that magic moment.
You want to?
It's this magic moment. That gives you a clue that I really shouldn't. Plus, I don't really work besides the title.
Oh, then.
I can make them up.
Yeah.
Here's the whirly one.
I think we don't need to get another one. We're perfect.
That's the window. So.
All right. So let's do this thing.
I just noticed that the United States on here is marked the United States. Not enough room for the T.
It's very small.
All right. Shall we?
Yes, let's.
This is now Bridge to a Better World. I'm Tiresias. This is Ani Raven.
Ani.
My dear companion over these many decades.
It's only 2 decades.
More than 2.5. And
Half my life. Oh, and Teresa did celebrate her birthday yesterday. We have not yet been together half of her life.
it was a big one. It was one of those that, continues
It
to get
wasn't
me.
a 0 or a 5.
No, but it was 3 times 21. It's like, so for me, it was a big deal because I was thinking, what will I do for the next 21 years? It's like 21 years is a sort of phase in one's life. And I've had
Actually, yeah. Yes.
3 of them, and it was good. All right, well, we'll get started here. Headlines. The Rapid Response Team, the RRT, the group of Portland cops who came out every night to stomp and poison anti-apartheid protesters, has disbanded itself. The move came in response to news of the investigation of Detective Eric Kammerer and the indictment of Corey Budworth for their individual special acts of violence towards protesters and journalists. None of the cops are quitting their cop jobs. They like money, presumably. They're just disbanding the RRT
They like being
as a
cops.
group. Yeah, they like being cops. And I'm going to guess that this goes in the frame that we've seen over the last couple of years of cops being petulant. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler and local radio demagogue Lars Larson publicly displayed their loyalty as befits their stations.
Cops? Petulant? Petty? As if they might, be
As if
childish
they
and
didn't honor their
retaliate
office.
and
Yeah,
don't actually mean to protect or serve.
that kind of thing. The Speaker of the House of Representatives said Tuesday that the House can't wait any longer, that's a quote, to conduct a comprehensive investigation after Senate Republicans blocked legislation to create an independent commission about the storming of the Electoral College proceedings in Congress January 6th. Speaker Nancy said, quote, whether we have a commission today, tomorrow, or the next day over in the Senate or not, the work of the committees will be very important in what we're seeking for the American people, the truth, end quotes. Those encouraging words come in the context of a great deal of obfuscation and evasion from the guilty parties, i.e. the Trump Republicans and a very substantial phalanx of top officials and the FBI, the other 3-letter secret police agencies, and the Pentagon, who would like to pretend that they didn't have the knowledge or capacity to stop the very public event. Calling them, they can go into the Tora Bora Mountains and rub out Osama bin Laden, the real one the first time, but they can't protect the Capitol. I mean, that's what that is, and not very credible.
Not very credible.
Yeah.
Is I think what that is.
Calling the Republicans out on the attempt to end democracy in the USA will take persistence, determination, and an uncharacteristic sense of purpose from the Democrats. So this will be interesting, to say the least. And 21 Republican representatives actually voted against, and I find this especially Republican, voted against Congressional Medals of Honor for the cops who suffered severe injuries or death while defending democracy.
And what was their rationale for that?
Attempt.
Did you ever, because I wasn't able to say, I saw that they voted against it, but I did not see what any of them said. Did anyone question them about voting against it?
Trying to get rationales from Republicans these days is, it puts me in mind of Tantalus and Sisyphus.
Well, I'm just curious. I really am, because, what does one say to that? Nah. Because
well, actually, they have an alternative, a ridiculous and alternative scenario, something that they just made up that it was Antifa that actually did it, and it was a false flag attack, and it was really Antifa. And what you see,
and regardless, then wouldn't the cops on the hill that got injured still be deserving, regardless of who bashed them in the head? Aren't they the party that loves cops? And
yeah,
I was just trying to, get them to logically follow themselves.
Tantalus, Sisyphus. Okay, so, and I got an email from Lauren Reagan from the Civil Liberties Defense Center. I want to share part of that with you. She wrote, this week, the Business and Human Rights Resource Center, the BHRRC, released a groundbreaking new report on international SLAP trends. That's Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation, SLAP. It has 2 P's, so that's a SLAP. This global analysis of lawsuits brought or initiated by corporate entities and their lawyer lackeys who are complicit in abusing legal systems illustrates how powerful entities attempt to intimidate and silence defenders and communities that speak out against environmental destruction. BHRRC identified 355 cases, most of which were brought or initiated by companies most associated with mining, factory farms, and corporate monocrops, logging, and palm oil industries. It's not a coincidence, and it shows that effective climate activists are viewed as enemies of the extractive industry. And she writes, "Good work, friends." Last week, CLDC clients and climate activists with the Sunrise Movement accepted a deferred prosecution agreement stemming from acts of nonviolent civil disobedience at a demonstration against Northwest Natural, a fracked gas polluter, and the polluter that supplies the gas pipes into this house. The bike rally and march to Northwest Natural's facilities was part of the ongoing fossil-free Eugene campaign that is calling on the city to green its energy sources. The first time I've seen green used as a verb in that way. Sunrise Movement organizers, I guess not, successfully pushed for the city to reconsider renewing its contract with Northwest Natural. And they continue to demand an end to Northwest Natural's harmful activities in the face of the climate crisis. Meanwhile, a court decision in Virginia could make it more expensive to use eminent domain to steal the rights to landowners' property across the country. A jury recently awarded a couple $430,000 after the pipeline company offered only $89,000 and change to compensate them for forcing the pipeline crossing through their land, irreparably affecting its property value and their quality of life, and probably really pissing them off. From our perspective, they write, it is interesting to note how many different groups of folks have come together to oppose these extractive industry pipelines across the country, from indigenous tribes to grassroots climate activists to private individuals, as with Jordan Cove LNG pipeline and terminal in Oregon. These diverse coalitions can be powerful and effective. CLDC has supported the resistance, they write, to the MVP pipeline by providing know your rights trainings and legal support to local activists and tree sitters in the area, as well as working with several wonderful local attorneys. Hurrah, wonderful local attorneys. I'll bet I know them. Thank you. Thank you, folks. We look forward to keeping you posted on developments in the campaign. They say, by the way, protect your this is me saying, by the way, protect your property if you have any by creating title to subsurface rights. I'm going to get on that and I'm going to share with you how that is done. I was shocked to find that effectively no one owns the subsurface rights under this house, which means that anyone who files for it first owns it. So it works that way. And the way it works, unfortunately, is someone wants to drill or mine under your property or nearby and screw up your property therefrom. Too bad, because they will get title. And that whole thing is capitalistic and problematic in its ways. Anyway, next item, the Supreme Court. This is less of a news item and more of, I want to talk about this. I mean, the news item is that the recent Supreme Court ruling packs a punch against LGBTQ equal rights. And they do that by signing on to Catholic anti-queer exclusions. And here's how it came about. In Philadelphia, a strongly Catholic town, if you want to adopt a child, you can go to a bureau called the Catholic Social Services, has the authority of the state, because it gets money from the state. But if you're GLBTQ, the Catholics will deny you the right to adopt a child because their religion views GLBTQ people as evil doers. The Pope, for example, has said that transgender people in particular are as bad as the atomic bomb. That hasn't gotten around to much. He said it to high officials, and unfortunately, it has gotten around to the people who like to punch. The Catholic denial of equal rights to GLBTQ persons is illegal in Philadelphia, but the agency continued to deny services out of bigotry. The Trump Supremes say that's just fine. And this is the direct result of the Trump's presidency and his pandering to the extreme right wing and selecting 3 of the seated justices. NPR wrote, quote, the court agreed unanimously that the city violated the Catholic group's right, but the justices divided 6-3 on the reasoning, with the majority limiting the reach of its decision, end quote. The insipidly specious reasoning behind the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Philadelphia's defunding of Catholic social services is the idea that one may act out of bigotry to deny rights to a group of people, in this case GLBTQ, and indeed receive public money for doing so if that bigotry arises from a sincerely held religious belief. Which kind of makes you want to say, what? Yeah, because there are some pretty weird, sincerely held religious beliefs. And this is for those that I was distracted for a second because there's a kitty claw on the heel of my foot.
I see.
How she got there, I don't know. But I mean, there's a lot of weird things that people believe, and what they really mean is that if the powerful religious factions believe it, then it's important.
Let's unpack that for a second, shall we? Again, so I'm reading your sentence.
Yeah.
Right. One may act out of bigotry to deny rights to a group of people, in this case GLBTQ, and indeed receive public money for doing so if the bigotry arises from sincerely held religious belief. Yeah, okay, well, I'm a witch, and I do accept everyone, so that doesn't work. But if we could apply that to protecting the environment, my sincerely held religious beliefs say that wild places are sacred. I kind of want to make it work for that, but that's not what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, of course not. It's just an
No,
excuse.
it's
And
not.
aside from the direct and immediate effect on adoptions, the decision by the Supremes adds to the power of the minority public mythology that GLBTQ persons are inherently evil. Guess which minority likes to believe that? Certainly one would not want weak or evil persons in one's armed forces, and heaven forbid some disgusting pervert would want to adopt a child. This is the sort of public gesture that leads to and indeed demands that all queers should remain second-class citizens subject to stompings by police or by anyone who feels that they need to act on behalf of a superior and aggrieved non-queer population. And that's just history. But the way it works, I mean, Trump talked down people of China, and so we have people who think that they're stomping Chinese on behalf of freedom and democracy. Well,
you're talking. I mean, this is bigotry. This is how bigotry works.
And there was an attack on. There was a bombing in downtown New York, and people were stomping Sikhs who, even in the mythology, had nothing to do with it. But this is how this sort of violence works, and
because bigots don't really think before they act, right? And so, anytime you have a court or any office, any authority underscoring that queers do not deserve full human rights, that there is some reason why we should be discriminated against, then it underscores that ability, that in fact necessity to put us in our place if you are in fact a God-fearing citizen.
Queers are molesters is what bigots want to believe, and if that's their logic. If GLBTQ people are denied foster rights, denied honor in the armed forces, it must be because they are evil and deserve their status as inferior and suspect persons. If transgender children are denied medical care, it must be because that medical care is false, and that's how at least a third of the population thinks. So on the occasion of Pride Month, I submit to you that we have entered a new, dangerous, and inevitably violent era of anti-queer backlash. That's like backlash, only has more I in it. And we must again fight for our rights, a la Stonewall. Almost said Stonehenge.
Well, I mean, and it kind of gets me.
More coffee.
It really kind of gets me in the fact that we are in Pride Month, and therefore we have the veritable rainbow explosion happening, right? And so we have rainbows from heaven. We have rainbows everywhere. We've got shopping bags of rainbows. We've got rainbows all over the place. And as somebody who came out as an 11-year-old in 77, there was not a whole lot of queer acceptance in 77. There was no queer role models, right? I mean, the closest we got was like glam rock, and that was kind of implied more than anything else. We had the Anita Bryant crusades to tell us that we were evil, and that's what we had. And so I'm excited. There's a part of me that's truly excited about the rainbow explosion. There's a part of me that is excited to see how far queer acceptance has come, to see that the Gen Zers are just questioning gender altogether, and there's a lot of stuff there that's exciting to me. That this has gone really right in many ways, and yet we also always face this backlash. And so it's that hypocrisy right now that is getting me, that we have the Supreme Court decision in the face of the Rainbow Explosion Month. And
the performative versus the actual legal basis
there we have it.
actually creates more opportunity for rage along the lines of, look, how tolerant I'm being and only giving you a traffic ticket instead of stopping you, even though you're queer. Yay, pride. Or look, there's Juneteenth is going to be celebrated officially tomorrow.
Exactly.
While the Republicans in 25 states, 26 states there's something like 500 bills right now in the various 50 states to restrict voting rights. And I'm going to use that word again, insidious ways, sneaky damn ways, to figure out how Black people vote and to stop it. However Black people vote, if they go to church and vote, they stop that. They stop registration to church. If they vote by mail, they stop vote by mail. Everything that can possibly be cooked up.
To bring back Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And at the same time, to enshrine Juneteenth as a holiday. There is a performative, sick, hypocritical nature to the politics today. And it is truly nauseating. It is truly nauseating.
Yep.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about being a little tired of always fighting the fight du jour, right? As a radical, I want to kind of get to the root cause. It's our cat creating mayhem behind us.
She's fighting with pencils, I think.
Yes. I'm going to ignore her now. I'm not good at that. But what I was going to say is about these radicals. That's us. That's you. We want to get to the bottom of stuff. We don't want to just keep fighting the thing that comes up on the radar right now, because it's always going to be something, and that target ever moves, right? And so I want to talk about getting to the root a little bit. And part of that root is corporate greed. Part of that root is war. And those things really do come together quite a lot. I'm really wanting to look at corporate rule, corporate greed, the fact that greed for the next quarter's profits is actually why we can't have nice things, right? That is why corporate rule works against the environment and environmental protections, protections for workers and for people in general. Corporations actually own political systems outright in most countries, if not through the corruption and just buying of politicians, then through extensive and expensive lobbying campaigns. And of course, there's always the carrot that is always held out in front of the politician's nose. If you do things our way, if you don't charge us taxes, if you give us huge incentives, we'll locate some business here and create some jobs for you and your electorate until we decide to move it elsewhere, because
Or they
we
even
never actually say that we're going to stick around for a long time.
Yeah, or they get even more direct and just say, your cousin Bill can have a job making $400,000 a year, and you'll be the hero.
Well, that would be the expensive lobbying efforts, I believe I was talking about. Yes. Anyway, so it's that love of profit that also leads us to protect our natural resources wherever they may happen to be found in the world. And to that end, next Thursday evening, I'm going to be hosting a live stream for Peace and Justice Works. And I'm going to be actually hosting the internationally renowned peace activist David Swanson, who is the executive director of World Beyond War. So I'm excited to be doing that. The topic is going to be World Beyond War, guided missiles, misguided policies, and changing direction. And that's going to be with David. He's going to be talking about efforts to ban killer drones, environmental impacts of war, and other peace-centered topics. That's next Thursday night, June 24th at 7 o'clock. So you can find that at the Peace and Justice Works YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Peace and Justice Works. And that'll be David Swanson next Thursday night, 7 o'clock. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions, and I get to be the host. I want to thank Dan Handelman for inviting me to participate in that. So that presentation is coordinated by the Peace and Justice Works Iraq Affinity Group. It's also co-sponsored by a Jewish Voice for Peace Portland and endorsed by the Olympia Coalition to abolish nuclear weapons. You can get more information about that by contacting Peace and Justice Works. And you can email them at iraq@pjw.info. And I'll put their phone number here in the comments after our show is posted. So you can find them that way as well.
Can I talk about capitalism for a minute?
I would love it if you would talk about capitalism.
Thank you. It's one of those things that I repeat a lot, and I feel like it just really needs a lot of repetition, and that is the fact that capitalism is conflated deliberately for centuries in this country with economic activity. I am for economic activity. I like it just fine, and it can be very satisfying, and I want to do it, and I want you to do it if you feel like it. And economic activity can mean, say, starting a cooperative, manufacturing something useful like furniture, and hopefully being responsible to the environment and distributing the wages according to whoever's put in the most work. And that can be done in terms of, for example, whalers and pirate ships used to do it by assigning a share and defining what made the profit, where they caught a whale or whatever. There are many ways to do it, but capitalism is not. Economic activity is separate and defined. Well, let me give you a really rough basis of it. It's capitalism when someone shows up with the capital and creates, say, that furniture factory and says, they never have to say it, but what they do, it says, I will forever be able to extract the true value of your labor and anything I can get out of the environment because I showed up with the capital. I have the capital, therefore I have a little fiefdom, and you have to wear silly ass uniforms with stripes on them or whatever. Not necessarily, but I'm saying that's how far it goes.
But you could, in fact, declare that you have to do that. And it would be your right because you showed up with the capital. And so if people want to work for you, you get to make them wear silly little buckets on their heads.
Yeah. So, for example, in the case of Zuckerberg or Bezos, you have millions of people making thousands of dollars. And what happens when you multiply thousands by millions? Well, you get billions of dollars, which they then extract. And that money is no longer available in the society to make things better. It's taken away from wages to make things worse. It's taken away often in situations in which people work as hard as they can, as long as they can, and still need food stamps, which are paid by taxes, which becomes a subsidy for the workers who are generating profits under capitalism, say for Bezos. So, I think it's very good to understand what capitalism is and why it's illegitimate. And it does have an effect. Bezos raised the wages because there was so much understanding and so much pushback on the fact that he paid so little for people who work so damn hard. Now, he hasn't changed the work so damn hard people part, but he has raised the wages somewhat, and it'll take more pressure. But that pressure, it doesn't have any oomph to it if you don't really understand what capitalism is.
I'm sorry. I just read about this.
Oh yeah.
And it's about Bezos and his
do tell.
Well, Amazon, they're cutting edge. They want to, do the right thing.
Guillotines have a cutting edge too. Oh, did I say that?
Oh, out loud. It's that sort of thing that got us banned from Facebook.
Probably
I'm just
so.
saying.
For entertainment purposes only.
For purely sarcastic. I'm just going to put it out there. Amazon has just created, I can't even say this, I believe they're called Amazon, which is wrong for I don't even know how many reasons, like a lot of them. Mindfulness cubes. As a worker in a factory, you actually don't have time to go to the bathroom. Your productivity levels haven't dropped, but there is now a mindfulness cube that you can go into in a time zone that doesn't exist, because I'm pretty sure you can't use the bathroom while you're in there. Or could you? And it's a little place with a plant on a shelf, and you can go and clear your mind and come back to your workstation then refreshed and energized and with greater productivity and lower accident rates.
Pissonbillionaires.org. Should it exist?
Capitalist pig, the other white meat. Go ahead. What were you saying? I just read about that last night, and I tried to wake you up, but you
I was very tired.
you were very tired. You'd had a good birthday,
I still-
and now
still need
I
my coffee,
spill
yes.
that out to you all. Amazon mindfulness cubes in the Amazon warehouse.
Hurrah for the free trade organic coffee, which is fighting hard against the all the booze I had over the last few days.
Woohoo!
I'm 63.
Yeah, okay. So, in summation, did you have more to say about capitalism, or shall we? Sorry, I really had to just jump in there. You were in the middle of a really good rant.
Thanks. Well, understand what it is and spread that awareness. It really has a powerful effect because a huge part of capitalism is its legitimacy and the fact that people don't understand what it is. And they will say things like, well, you were creating a business selling tacos, and so you say that you're against capitalism, but look at that. Well, it ain't capitalism until you take that attitude that you get to suck the wages away from everyone, suck the productivity, the value, the profit away from everyone else without their input. That's what makes it capitalism. Special wages, special rights and prosperity for the person who brought the capital is capitalism.
Yeah, fiefdom.
Yeah.
And we haven't even gotten into the fact that they pay no taxes, but
There's
that's perhaps a different time. So are you? Shall we sum up?
I think so. Yes.
All right, summing up. So I just wanted to put it out there. I did the little tarot, the mini tarot for the community this week, and what I got basically amounts to sometimes you really just can't shoulder on. The burdens are too great. Sometimes you really have to step aside and engage in a different way. So stop engaging. If you're feeling like your nose has been to the grindstone for too long, you haven't made any progress, and things are kind of at a standstill, it's probably best to stop and gain perspective. So let's see here. What we have are the Two of Flamingos, which is the Two of Swords in most decks. The 10 of Peppermills, otherwise known as the 10 of Clubs in most decks. And the Hanged One, or the Suspended Lobster in this deck. This is the Wonderland deck. It's true. I am kind of a Wonderland. I like it there. Okay, so
She do.
But about those cards. So to note that you're in a stalemate, that we're all in a stalemate, that this I got was really more about our political moment than about any of us personally, though that also may be the case. So pushing on directly is probably not going to have good results. It's important to take some time and to gain a fresh perspective. That's going to help us actually figure out how to re-engage in a way that's going to be more effective. It's a temporary calm right now. So it's probably a good idea to use this very temporary calm well to refresh, to educate, to gain different understandings of what's going to help, to learn history and strategy, to shift our perspective. If we've been thinking about engaging head on, think about engaging from the side. Think about shifting our perspective. All right. Also, couldn't help but notice a couple of those cards, the Two of Flamingos and the 10 of Peppermills in this deck in particular, have a little connotation of disguise and intrigue. When one of them came up a few weeks ago, I didn't really think about it too much, but the two of them came up next to each other this morning, kind of made me want to say this. Given the heightened political activities and prosecutions that are going on right now, I would be a little slow to trust new people showing up in our communities. I don't mean to sow distrust, but I do think it's important to learn about the history of COINTELPRO. And I think it's important to know about the history of how the state has routinely used informants to break up movements. We know that there have been informants in the street actions over the last several months.
And provocateurs.
And we know that there have been provocateurs. So again, be smart, understand our history, know that the state isn't playing, and neither should we, right? This is serious work. Know our history, learn about COINTELPRO, learn about how it was applied against the Black Panthers, against AIM.
Poison pen letters, snitch jacketing.
Know about how similar tactics were employed against Earth First in the 90s.
There's some real deep
and against anti-global, anti-corporate activists. Yeah, learn about that history because, again, we're going to be seeing it. We are seeing it. We also know, it happened right after Occupy, right? Remember all of a sudden there were knocks on the door and everyone was being subpoenaed to grand juries. So just be aware. Yeah, that's what I want to say. I was friends with Judy Berry. I have spent a lot of time talking with Peg Millett, who is still alive, and I would like to actually maybe talk to her again while we focus on COINTELPRO. If people don't know about Peg Millett, you should check out the Arizona 5.
Is it Peg Millett that said the person who can get you the dynamite is the informant?
That was Peg. Yeah. So just a little heads up there, not to focus on it unduly.
Happens.
But it happens.
Serious business. You're right.
And so with that, coming up over the next week, anything on your horizon? Anything that you're wanting folks to focus on or look at?
I thought I'd overthrow capitalism.
Oh, well, that's a good idea, isn't it?
Mind power.
Again, I'll just go ahead and make sure to mention one more time, 7:00 next Thursday night, June 24th, will be that live stream at Peace and Justice Works channel here on YouTube. And with that, we'll be back next week, if not before. We always threaten that we could come back anytime. You just never know. And that's why you want to subscribe. Be sure you do subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Also, do help spread the word that this is where we are. We were rather unceremoniously kicked from our Facebook lives without warning. So there are still some people who are just finding us now. Please do help spread that word. And you can find us also in the Twitterverse at Bridge2 Utopia. And you can also email us, bridge2abetterworld@gmail.com. That's numeral 2, bridge2abetterworld@gmail.com.
I'm trying to look at the comments. I love the comments. Thanks for comments. Comment away.
And I think we actually have figured out how to archive our shows without wiping out your comments.
I hope.
I do hope. And so with that, we will be back next week.
Thanks for being here. And our love goes out to you as always, and to all the ships at sea.
Cheers.